on school. It wasn't that long ago, and in college and whatnot. And it didn't seem as though there was anything but setting objectives. And this is also something you write on why greatness cannot be planned, because at an early age we start identifying with who do we want to become. There's an objective, like a fireman, a policeman, and so like we start getting those identities into how to become those personas, so to say. And the education system also, it might be changing now with AI, but at least as far as I'm concerned, it's still about checking the box. Always checking a box of whatever it is. Did you bring the homework? Did you stop reading after they told you? Did you finish your recess? Like the only point in school where we can really find the things we want to do that are interesting is in recess, and those are like 15-minute breaks 2 times per day on I think 8-hour shift, you could say. So that builds up a snowball of 18 years in that system into saying that's the way life should be. Like I have to follow these steps. I have to find that job, and at the same time, I can say for myself, maybe listeners will relate, but there's this inner whisper saying, this feels right-ish. This doesn't feel completely aligned with who I am, but we never tune into that feeling because it was never taught to us. And so, after school, after college, let's say, how do we unroll that mindset, that synapses that we've made in terms of, fixating on something because that's what we were taught success would mean?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, the education system is a culprit in this, but it's a culprit as a kind of reflection of the broader society because we've completely bought into objectives. So it's just another symptom of it. But it's a very serious one, because it does shape our entire lives, this system. And it's very objective. It's very objective at many levels. Like it's objective at the individual level. It's like there's this basic track laid out for you, and you have to follow that track, and you have to get these grades, and then eventually, like all the subjects, what you're supposed to learn. Like what the tests are already like determined. Like that's how you're going to get praise or criticism, and then eventually you choose a major maybe, and that's still objective. Like major is an objective. So that's what I'm trying to do. I have to decide, like at the beginning of college or something. And so it's a very, very objective system for the individual, but also for the institution. Like the institutions, like are graded too. It's like they grade how well the school is doing based on standardized test scores. And there's an objective, which is to raise those scores. And it's like if the scores don't go up, or if they're low, then the school is penalized with less funding. People get fired. So there's like this urgency, like under everybody, like to stick to the objectives. Don't forget the objectives. We can recognize this in other areas of society to use like OKRs and companies and things like this, but it's certainly very prevalent in the educational system. And what has it done to us, or Gen Z, which I presume I'm speaking to somewhat here, which is cool. So for like us and Gen Zs, like you're actually being shaped by this, especially as you're coming out, like 18, you say, but I'd say even 22, whatever it is. Like even college will do this to you, continue to perpetuate this. And so for me personally, it's very interesting personally because I just remember having crazy thoughts that now in hindsight seem crazy, but at the time seemed rational. Like I had a thought at a certain point in high school. I remember I thought that there basically is no point in having an idea. Like I used to think having ideas was fun. I remember as a kid, I was like, I have ideas. I remember sometimes my friends had ideas, but I thought of it as kind of like a recreational thing. It's not like a serious thing you do to like succeed. Like to succeed, you have to follow instructions. So like in school, like this is the test, this is the subject matter, you're just going to do this. This is how I'm going to be successful in life. So I actually thought like ideas are not actually very useful to have. I seriously thought that. It's not actually a good thing to have an idea. It's mostly just for fun. But it's a crazy thought. Like every ideas are the fuel for society, right? Like, I mean, that's how progress happens. But I actually believe like ideas are not very useful because living in this world where everything is so objective and laid out for me in a curriculum. And then I had a revelation somewhere around grad school, maybe around the age of 24 or 25, that it might actually be useful to have an idea. Like it took me until I was like my mid-20s to actually like register that actually it could be useful for me because now in a PhD program, like I'm supposed to have an idea. This was like really exciting because I was like, wow, it's like actually finally there might be somebody actually might like it if I actually have my own idea. But the fact that it took like 25 years, like a quarter century before that even matters in life is absolutely insane. That's insane. What has that done to us psychologically and mentally? To diminish this like most impressive human faculties, like the ability to be creative. And so what should we do or take out of this? Well, I mean, the first thing is like, just to be aware that you've been inundated with this particular type of ideology for decades. So like you're a victim of that. But then also, that there's some emerging from this to realize that like actually ultimately it's not true. Like actually having ideas is good for you. But the problem is that your ability to ideate, like to have ideas, I think has been damaged from all those years of suppression, because it does seem to me that early in childhood, it's like a natural human impulse to have ideas and to just do whatever you think is interesting. But having it beaten out of you over decades is going to diminish that organ, that ideation organ that you used to have. And so you're probably not as good at it as you would have been if it had been encouraged. But there's nothing we can do about that now. It just is what happened. So you can